you to this Bible study of the Banking Blessings Ministry. My name is Goodluck Ofebu. This is my wife.
I'll be Ofebu.
We welcome you today to this Bible study on our one of the lessons in our series on Daniel. Today we are going to take a look at the change that Daniel went through when he was in Babylon. He went to Babylon as a captive. Yes, the king brought him and his friends in to be trained to serve the king, but he rose after they finished the training. They were appointed to the king's service, but over years Daniel rose and in fact became chief advisor to the king, became the person to go to whenever there was any kind of problem, became a Joseph. We are familiar with the story of Joseph, how he rose to become the highest administrative officer in the land of Egypt. Daniel, in fact, became something similar or got close to something similar while a captive. So we want to look at how he made the change, what he did to enable him, somebody that was brought in as a slave, essentially a slave brought in as a captive, how he endeared himself to people and won the confidence of people so that he was promoted so that he met this kind of success. That's what we are going to look at today. And we'll find basically that it was the fact that he was committed to worshiping God, the fact that he worked hard in his life, and we're going to look at this. There's no point trying to pick into it. So today we'll look at Daniel's rise in Babylon, the success of his life in Babylon. And we'll learn that, as I already said, Daniel came to Babylon as a captive, and he was appointed king's advisor after 3 years of training. But he ascended high in the king's administration and became, at one point, very close to the highest administrative officer in Babylon, the province of Babylon. He served 3 generations of kings, starting with Nebuchadnezzar and ending with King Darius. And his reputation was that the Spirit of God lived in him, that he had the Spirit of God in him, and he was very knowledgeable. He had great knowledge and wisdom, more than any other person at that time. And he had the reputation of being upright and thorough in his conduct of public affairs. Upright and thorough, and we'll see this. Our study will come from Daniel chapters 1 to 6. Some of these we have studied in the past, and none of them really we're not going to look at any of them in detail, but we are going to take various selections that tell us about his success in Babylon and tell us about his life, what we think may have contributed to the success. Only do you have an opening statement before we move on?
Just that, I'd like to welcome all those who connect with us, Facebook, YouTube. I want to appreciate all of you. And the book of Daniel, or the account of Daniel, is always something exciting. There's always something to learn from it. Like you said at the beginning, it's almost like Joseph. There's so much we can learn from the account of Daniel and the 3 other young men that were with him. And so it will be exciting to see the transition and what kept him through to be able to make this kind of transition.
Yes. Okay, so let us begin with his arrival in Babylon. Remember, King Nebuchadnezzar besieged Judah and defeated Judah, looted everything, including the house of God in Jerusalem, and then took captive, instructed his people to select people that were suitable to be trained for service to the king. So Daniel and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, will see their names before they change their names. They were placed into the king's service. They did 3 years training. At the end of the 3 years, Nebuchadnezzar tested them and found them to be excellent in all matters that he questioned them on. He found them to be better, 10 times better than all the other people he has encountered. He already had a team of wise men, people that were considered wise, they called them magicians, sorcerers, and all that served the king. And he found out that Daniel and his three friends were better than all this, 10 times as good at least. One of the key things that happened during this period was Daniel negotiated a special diet for him and his friends so that they will at the same time comply with the king's orders without violating their pledge to worship God. We went through this. We're not going to discuss the details so that we don't spend too much time. There are so many sections we need to cover. We already have a Bible study session on this, on Daniel's negotiating skill, how he negotiated a special diet. It's not really about the diet, it's the fact that he was obedient to the king, he complied with the king's orders, but at the same time did not violate, because eating from the king's kitchen would have meant eating food that was already exposed to the worship of those gods. So partaking in such food was equivalent to partaking in worship of the gods of Babylon. So he was able to negotiate an agreement, a settlement, so that they didn't have to do that. Well, let us read about this initial period. It's described in Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 through 20, but we'll read 18 to 20 because that captures the key information that we want in this particular Bible study.
We're going to read from the book of Daniel, chapter 1, the New King James Version, verse 18. Now at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. Verse 20, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm.
Well, so if we summarize that, they excelled in all matters of human wisdom and understanding. I mean, they studied everything that they were supposed to study, the literature of the Chaldeans, science and technology at that time. They studied all of these. And in all of these, they excelled. They were found better than all the other people that went through the same program with them. What we find about Daniel is that it isn't just that he knew these things, but he actually applied this knowledge to everyday life. And we'll see evidence of that in the later selections that we're going to bring. So he was very knowledgeable, but it's not only that he was very knowledgeable, but he actually applied his knowledge, his wisdom, his understanding in his everyday interaction with human beings in his conduct of public affairs. Well, one of the key things that happened was the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. And he wanted somebody to interpret the dream, but he didn't trust his people. He told them, okay, before you can interpret the dream for me, you have to tell me the dream. Well, we did this in the past. We found out none of them could. And Daniel was called in, and Daniel, after going through a period of prayer with his friends, he came, not only told the dream, he interpreted it. Then at the end of that, the Nebuchadnezzar realized for the first time that the God that Daniel worshipped was more God, that was superior to all the other things they worshipped. He recognized Daniel, the God of Daniel and his three friends, as the true God. Of course, that didn't make him a worshipper of God, but he had that recognition. So that one respect for Daniel is not just respect, it also made him now somebody that the king relied on for certain types of service, for interpretations of dreams and interpretations of things, anything that required wisdom. So he promoted Daniel to a ruler over the province of Babylon, but also made him chief administrator of all the wise men of Babylon, all of the people that provided what we may call service of wisdom to the king. Their sorcerers, their magicians, whoever they were. So he blessed all of them under Daniel. So that's the first. Let us read about this in Daniel chapter 2, verses 1 through 49. Of course, we will read only 46 to 49. And honey, if you want to jump in at any time, you know that you can always do that. And I know at the end you have something to say also. Okay.
Daniel chapter 2, verse 46. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, "Truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret." 48. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
Yes, so after that dream interpretation, the king was really impressed with Daniel, and he promoted Daniel and placed him at the head of all the wise men of Babylon, made him a ruler in Babylon, and then his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were made provincial administrators, were made administrators under Daniel. Well, then we step forward to an interesting testimony from Nebuchadnezzar. This was I found this in Daniel chapter 4. Daniel chapter 4 was in fact written by King Nebuchadnezzar. And what was it? Was there he recounted a dream he had. Again, he wanted people to interpret the dream for him. They couldn't. Eventually, it was Daniel that interpreted it. And he also wrote an account of how he was transformed into animal form, the punishment. But our Bible study is not really about that. But through his account here, we'll see what he thought of Daniel. It's the interactions that he had with Daniel that we are interested in. But this was this case in which he was removed from the palace and condemned to live the life of an animal for about 7 years or something like that, and eventually brought back to the palace. But so let us read about this. One of the things he found out, he concluded after his interaction with Daniel, is that he concluded that, look, the Spirit of God was in Daniel. That is, he recognized Daniel as a man of God, Daniel as somebody that had that was a channel for the power of God, that through him they could get God to do things for them through Daniel. So let us read about this. Daniel chapter 4, verses 1 to 36, but we'll read 4 to 9.
Daniel chapter 4. We're still in New King James Version, reading from New King James Version. Daniel chapter 4, verse 4. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in my house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts of on my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore I issued a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known to me the interpretation of the dream. Then the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers came in, and I told them the dream, but they did not make known to me its interpretation. But at last Daniel came before me. His name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God. In him is the spirit of the holy God. And I told the dream before him, saying, Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy God is in you, and no secret troubles you, explain to me the visions of my dream that I have seen and its interpretation.
So Nebuchadnezzar acknowledged that the Spirit of God lived in Daniel, that Daniel had the Spirit of God in him. Now, all his people could not interpret the dream, and Daniel interpreted it, confirming himself as a channel for the power of God. The detail of this is in the Bible. We're not going to go through it, but the key thing here is that Daniel became somebody that people associated with being a channel for the power of God, somebody that could invoke the power of God and get things done, get God to do things that other people maybe couldn't get God to do. So he was seen as a godly person, as a person in whom the Spirit of God lived. So that's one of the key things that made him successful in Babylon, and we'll talk about this a little more. Well, after Nebuchadnezzar died, his son Belshazzar took over the reign of Babylon. And even though at the time Nebuchadnezzar died, you could see that he was convinced that God was indeed God. He was, but this apparently did not affect his son. His son that took over from him didn't have the same conviction. One of the ways he showed it was, they had a big party in his palace, and he invited, he was serving wine, and he said, okay, go and get all those gold cups and vessels that they took from Judah, from the house of God in Jerusalem. Then he used this to serve wine to his guests, to his family and guests. And as they drank, they praised the God of gold, whatever that is. They were dancing, essentially they were enjoying themselves, and he was extolling his power and the fact that he had these gold vessels that he was using. Well, a finger came out from nowhere and wrote something on the wall of his palace. And the writing, they didn't understand the writing, they could not read it, and of course they didn't know the meaning. He got all his wise men, all his people, none of them could. And the king was afraid. That is King Belshazzar was really perplexed. He was disturbed, and this caused a commotion. He was almost crying, because they did say he was crying, that he was, the way he was, his expression showed despair. Then his queen came out and said, look, don't be despaired, don't be worried at all. There is a man called Daniel, and the description, the way she described Daniel actually brings out what people thought about him. The book of Daniel doesn't really give us a lot of details about some of the things Daniel did, but the way they described him showed that he did a lot of things that made people respect him, made people regard him very highly, made people depend on him. He was almost like the way that Potiphar saw Joseph and decided to place him in charge of everything he had. That was the description that the queen gave of Daniel. We're going to read it in the Bible. He recommended that they should call Daniel, and he said the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Holy God was in him, and he light, understanding, and wisdom were found in him. Light, look at the words she used. Light, understanding, and wisdom were found in him. Understanding and wisdom we can understand. But light, when somebody says that light is found in a human being, this is a human being, somebody that whatever he was involved in was successful. If you had a problem and you went to him, he will find a solution to the problem. And her description does give this kind of information. And of course, Daniel interpreted the writing. Let us read about this in Daniel chapter 5. It's in verses 1 to 31, but we're going to read 10 to 12 to sort of capture what they thought, what this queen thought of Daniel at the time.
Daniel chapter 5, verse 10. The queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came to the banquet hall. The queen spoke, saying, O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the Spirit of the Holy God, and in the days of your father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation.
So we see all the description here of Daniel. He said, light, wisdom, and understanding were found in him. He had great knowledge, understanding, he interpreted dreams, he solved riddles, he explained enigmas. These are the kind of things that showed that Daniel was like an overall problem solver. Whatever they brought to him, whatever problem existed, if they brought it to his attention, he would find a solution to that problem. I could even say that he cared about people. Not just that he knew how to solve the problems, but he cared about people, so he solved the problem because he cared. So this reputation we can sum up as one that they found in him the power of God, that is, they saw him as a channel for the power of God, and then they associated him with human excellence. Power of God or Spirit of God lived in him, and he had excellent human capabilities. He was better than any human that they knew. These are some of the qualities that helped Daniel win the confidence of the kings. And we'll talk about it as we go along. Well, after one of the interpretation of that dream really was that the reign of Belshazzar was going to end that night, and it did. The Medes and the other group came and took over, but the next king then became King Darius, somebody a Mede, which means the Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom ended with his son Belshazzar, and then Darius took over. And Darius set up an interesting administrative system. He appointed 120 satraps, they are like administrators, and then he appointed 3 governors over the satraps, and Daniel was one of the 3 governors. Then the satraps took care of things and reported to the governors. Then the governors were responsible to the king. So with this was an efficient system, actually. In this system, he found that Daniel was better than any. That Daniel was so good that he felt that the best thing to do was to place Daniel at the top of the administrative, that is at the highest administrative position, so that everybody will report to Daniel, and Daniel will report to the king. He wanted Daniel to be in charge of everything in Babylon, just like Pharaoh gave Joseph responsibility for everything in Egypt. There is great parallel between these two people. Well, the other administrators and governors, the satraps, they didn't like this at all. They were afraid. They said, who is this man? He's not even one of us. So they conspired. They wanted to find something wrong with Daniel, something they can use to make a report on him. Well, they found nothing. The Bible said they found nothing. They checked. Remember, this time he has been in government for a long time. He has been governor. So they looked to see, is there something he didn't do right? Did he take bribe somewhere? Did he fail to do something that he was supposed to do? Or did he do something he was not supposed to do? They could not find any. Let us read about this. We'll talk more about it, but let's read about it. Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 to 28, then we're going to read 1 to 9. Honey, do you want to say something before?
Well, in this case, it's very interesting to note that the only basis they could find no valid basis on which they could conspire against Daniel. And the only thing they could now use to challenge him is his worship of Jehovah.
Yeah, we're coming to that.
That's the only place where they could find the thing they could set a trap for him.
Yes.
So it's very important for us to note that.
Yes. It said that they couldn't find anything in his conduct of government affairs, in his conduct of public affairs. Then they said, okay, let us use him, let us exploit his worship of God, let us find something. We'll see what they found later on.
Daniel chapter 6.
Yeah, Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 to 9.
Verse 1. It pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with three administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them so that the king might not suffer loss. Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom.
So he distinguished himself through human excellence, and of course based on his hard work, his knowledge, and his faith and godliness. These are the things that we have described in the past as living in the image of God. We are going to talk more about it, but I just wanted to bring this out while we continue reading.
Verse 4. At this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent.
Neither corrupt nor negligent. That means he was upright in his conduct of human affairs, and he was thorough. He did not neglect anything that he was supposed to do, and he did not do anything that he was not supposed to do. And whatever he did to the satisfaction of people. He was fair to people. He was just. You know, these are describing somebody that had 100% public trust. And this is one of the reasons that Daniel was very successful in Babylon.
Verse 5. Finally, these men said, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel, unless it has something to do with the law of his God."
They could not find basis for conspiracy except by exploiting his worship. And again, as I said, this is the benefit of living in the image of God. That people, remember, Daniel was a real person. He was a real person. Think of him as the governor of a state. In countries that have governors, we know of one country, Nigeria, has states and governors. And now people want to find trouble for one of the governors, and they look and check everything, and they could not find a thing. That is a public testimony by itself to the character of such a person. That people that wanted to create problem for you looked in your conduct of public affairs, looked in your work, in your daily life, looked for anything they could find, and they themselves testified that they found nothing. That's what happened in the case of Daniel. And of course, they decided to go after him through his worship of God. Verse 6.
Verse 6. So these administrators and satraps went as a group to the king and said, "May King Darius live forever." The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue the decree and put it in writing, so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So King Darius put the decree in writing.
Well, King Darius made the decree. Of course, Daniel violated the decree because he kept worshiping God. He was praying 3 times a day, and he didn't hide. They saw him, so they went and reported to the king, and Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. Of course, God saved him, nothing happened to him. The next day, they brought him out, and all those people that conspired against him were thrown into the lions' den. And the lions ate them up before even they reached the bottom of the den. Our focus wasn't on that story, but it helped us going through so quickly through the first 6 chapters of Daniel. We see things that give us an idea of how he was such a success in Babylon. Daniel was committed to worshiping and serving God. And in fact, we had the opportunity to look at the meaning of worshiping and serving God. Some of the things that it means, of course, you can't write down everything it means, but it means that you resign to God's will. You walk, apply your human effort while you have faith in God. That is, you rely on your faith, rely on God to do things for you, and then work hard and believing that through your work that God will intervene and provide whatever that He has laid out for you. Your life conveys the image of God to people. We call it living in the image of God. That means when you interact with people, you make an impact on them that represents God in their life, that helps you convey God in their life, that helps you, that makes them seek God because of your interaction with them. Okay, we are going to look at this, what Daniel did in each of these areas. Actually, we will see his resignation to the will of God, and then we'll take his living in the image of God and working, apply his human effort and faith, and take those two together. In his resignation to the will of God, a key example on that is his acceptance of captivity. They were taken from Judah and brought to Babylon. He recognized that he had to submit to the authority of the king that had him in captivity. The king, not only the king, but those that the king appointed as his representatives. You remember his interaction with the chief of eunuchs during his training program, his interaction with the steward. He also recognized limits. In other words, recognizing that, okay, yes, I'm going to respect the authority of the king, but there are limits. The limits being, if they try to make me do something that violates my worship of God. So, yes, I'll be obedient to the king, but I worship God. And he recognized these two. And whenever there was a conflict, and we went through one very good conflict, example of a conflict in a previous Bible study. Whenever there was conflict, he looked for a way to resolve the conflict. He did not try to disobey the king or try to give up his worship. So this is an acceptance of captivity. An acceptance of captivity, believing that since God let him come there, that God will find a way, that is, God will lead him through that adversity. The adversity of living in captivity, that God will lead him through it at his own time, in his own way. Maybe God wanted to accomplish something there with him. So he accepted his situation, resigned to the will of God, not really acceptance of captivity, acceptance of what they imposed on him, but rather acceptance of that condition as something that God has allowed, and that he will live through it, walk his way through it, until God leads him out of it. Well, let us take an example here. Remember his negotiation of a diet. Well, when they announced to him that they expected him and his friends to eat from the king's kitchen, it would have been a very good example to say, oh, yes, we've been worshiping this God all along, and he let us. After all, one of the big things that God did for the people of Israel was lead them in war, lead them against their enemies in war. So he could have very easily said, okay, he abandoned us, so why should I worry about him anymore? But he still maintained that he's a worshiper of God, and he's not going to do anything that will violate his worship. But he is under captivity, under this king, under the authority of that king, so he's going to respect the king's orders. So remember what we found in that study was Daniel found out that the king and his people really weren't interested in what he ate. They were only interested in he and his friend being healthy, and their good health showing in their body. So he made that deal, said, okay, feed us vegetable and water for the next 10 days. So these are the various ways that he resigned to the will of God and tried to do what he could to resolve situations. Honey, I don't know if you want to come in here before I go to the next one.
I think these are all the things that the attributes. We can see some of the attributes that helped him, that made him successful. His faith and commitment to God, despite all odds. So, it's some of these attributes come out clearly.
Yeah. So in this one, he obeyed the king, but at the same time did not eat the food from. He was able to find a solution to the problem. Okay. Again, it's the same thing that illustrates his living in the image of God, because he decided that he will obey the king, but he will not allow the king to violate his worship. So he could have very easily said, oh no, I'm not going to eat that food, it's against my religion or something. Which probably could have escalated the situation and created a conflict. So he was determined to find a peaceful resolution. I call that an evidence of his living in the image of God. That he was going to find a peaceful resolution. And then the first step in finding a peaceful resolution was he went to meet with the chief of eunuch to ask for an exemption. And there the man explained to him that he couldn't, because the king wanted them to eat this food so that they will look healthy, they will be healthy. So it was through that interaction that Daniel found out that all that these people were really interested in is for him and his friends to be healthy and look healthy. So he went, now talked with the steward that was in charge of serving them food, realized that he was the person that had the authority for the next round of negotiation. And there he reached a peaceful settlement that said, look, test us for 10 days, give us nothing but vegetable and water. And after 10 days, you see how we look. Now, he worked diligently at the king's training. He took it seriously and did everything, studied everything that they wanted him to study. And at the end, the king tested them and he passed in flying colors, as we usually say. he sought God when he thought that he had reached the limit of human capability. Remember that first dream when they told him that all the wise men were going to be killed, including him. And he said, well, give me some time. And then he went to the, did he go to the king? No. He went to the, yeah, I think he went to the king and asked for time.
Yes, then later, when he got the time, he went to his colleagues, told them what was happening and said that they should pray.
Yes, he said, let's pray because
for God, it's only God that can give us this kind of revelation.
Yes. So he recognized when he reached the limit of human capability, but he didn't give up. He went to God. He took it to God in prayer. And through all the things we've seen, we saw that he applied his knowledge to serve people. He served people fairly. He served people justly. He was an upright man and he was known to be thorough. He didn't neglect anything he was supposed to do. And he did not do anything that he was not supposed to do. So these are the things, that's living in the image of God. Each of these are the qualities that Christ preached in the Sermon on the Mount. That that is, people see you as somebody that they go to for goodness. They go to get things done. They go to get success or to chart the way to success. That's what he was. Just like Joseph. Well, before we summarize, honey, I think you have something to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know how much time we have.
Just say what you want to say.
We usually, a lot of people, like I always say, we look at the accounts in the Bible as some kind of stories that happened for people in the Bible or in those days.
Mm.
But these things were written for us because they apply to us even in today's world. And I particularly like to always look at what lessons do I learn from the events in the Bible that will help me to live the way that God wants me to live, that will help me apply it to my life. And looking at Daniel, his journey from captive to becoming the king's most trusted, most effective, most relevant in the king's government.
Yeah.
In fact, serving 3 kings, is something remarkable and something we can learn from. The first thing that comes to me is that Daniel never compromised his worship of Jehovah.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, when situations face us, like being captives, or a lot of things in life can make us captive.
Yeah.
Not just that you were abducted from your place, and problems
Yeah.
can make us captive.
Yeah.
Many of us, begin to question God. Like you said, God, I've been praying to you. If you were this, how could you allow this to happen to me? We begin to allow our faith in God to be shaken, and our trust in God to be shaken. But Daniel has shown us that your commitment to God, despite being in the valley of life, is very important.
Yes.
In fact, it's a test. It is a time that God will actually want to know, how much do you love me?
Yeah.
How much are you committed to me?
Yes.
When things are rosy and we're seeing God's blessings, it's very easy to lift up holy hands and sing and do or commit to God.
Yeah.
But when you are in the valley, it's always a difficult time.
Yeah.
But Daniel has shown us that if you don't shake in your faith, if you don't renege on your commitment, in fact, if you intensify your commitment to Jehovah, He will take you through that and even make things better.
Yes.
I look at the example of Job. Joseph.
Yeah.
These are people that have similar things in common.
Yeah.
Remember when, Job, when Satan wanted to tempt Job, he said, God, you have put a fence around him.
Yeah.
You have done this. That's why he can never speak against you. Remove it, and you see that he will speak ill against you.
Yes.
God said, go, but don't touch his life. So these things, you will see one, that a commitment to God is very important. And, when people can look at you, because the Satan we see is all around us. The spirit is not the human beings, but the spirit of devil that is in people that will, Nebuchadnezzar and all those, is the spirit.
Yeah.
It's the deadly spirit that was in them.
Yes.
Okay? So human beings, when they look at us, can they look at us and say, I cannot find any other way to tempt this person or to make this person do something wrong except through his or her faith in God?
Yeah.
Well, by the time we come to that point in our relationship with God, then we know we're on the right track.
Yes.
Another thing is Daniel's devotion to prayer. Prayer can never be too much. The effective fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. Can we see that in all situations, whenever Daniel prayed to God, God answered him right away.
Yeah.
It wasn't wait till tomorrow or it was always a quick answer, to the point that when they were thrown, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were thrown into the furnace.
Yeah.
Before they could look, the furnace that burnt the people that threw them in, before they could look up, there was a fourth man in the fire with them to rescue them.
Yeah.
Look at Daniel in the lion's den. The lions God sealed the mouth of the lions. So, when we pray, you have faith that does not shake, commitment to God that does not shake. God will not joke with you.
Yeah.
He said in Matthew, I believe it's in Matthew, that if we have faith as small as a mustard seed, that we can tell a mountain to move from here to there.
Yes.
If only we believe and will not doubt that we will receive whatever we ask from God. We can see these examples. He was upright. So what that tells me, as the queen of Belshazzar was describing him, I was just ticking off in my hand. These are the qualities that God wants us to exhibit anywhere we are.
Yes.
Upright. He wasn't negligent. He was not corrupt. He was trustworthy. How many of us can that be said for in our places of work? In our dealings with human beings? How many of us? These are things that God expects from us, despite the situation we find ourselves. Whether we are being tempted with a lot of wealth, whether somebody is trying to give us bribe, in whatever way, this is what God wants us, how He wants us to do.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, these attributes endeared him to the secular world.
Yes.
The people that didn't even know He's God, it endeared him to them.
Yeah.
Because they say, and if you look at it, really, when somebody is upright, trustworthy, the first thing you ask for is not, what is his religion?
Yeah.
You will say, this is a man of integrity.
Yes.
This is a woman of integrity.
Yeah.
It's not, what is the religion? By the time you recognize that, you come and say, oh, okay, and look at how committed he is to his God.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that will make people ask about who is your God.
Yeah.
What God do you worship?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are some of the things I see. And lastly, but not the least, is the fact that as Christians or as believers, we are called to obey the laws of the government and the rulers of the land that God has put in place.
Yeah.
However, obeying God's law should take precedence.
Yeah.
Obeying God's law should take precedence. And you have to do it in a nice way. Not in a rebellious way and all that. But because when you show this kind of commitment to Jehovah, He will save you from whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
So a life of integrity that does not compromise your faith in God is very important. These are some of the things I was able to pick that can help us in our life's journey.
Yes. And I mean, we probably should have given this a title that reads like Daniel's Recipe for Success.
Yeah.
Because he has shown commitment to God is the foundation of success. And then, of course, living the way that God has created us to live, interacting with people that way. Well, that actually brings us to the end of this Bible study. And we thank all those that will join us at any time from any place. That is the beauty of posting our Bible study on the internet, is that you can join at any time from any place as long as you have access to the internet. And as long as you can get to our website, bankingblessing.org. There you will find this Bible study and all the ones we've done in the past and all the ones we will do in the future. We thank you for joining us, and we pray that you learn something that will make a positive impact on your life and bring you closer to God's purpose for your life. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you.